Well, new arguments on both sides today in the Second Amendment fight that has been raging ever since 26 innocent victims, including 20 young children, were murdered inside of a Connecticut elementary school last week. President Obama today standing by his call for stricter gun control laws.
And the fact is, most gun owners in America are responsible. They buy their guns legally, and they use them safely. And it's encouraging that many gun owners have stepped up this week to say there are steps we can take to prevent more tragedies like the one in Newtown. Steps that both protect our rights and protect our kids.
Then the NRA spoke out today for the first time since the tragedy in Newtown, trying to focus on the bigger picture.
Nobody has addressed the most important, pressing, and immediate question we face. How do we protect our children right now, starting today, in a way that we know works?
John Lott is the author of More Guns, Less Crime, and Lori Haas is a member of the Coalition to Stop Gun Violence and Virginians for Responsible Gun Laws. Thank you both so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
My only goal with this segment is to have an honest debate about what's really likely to happen if we tighten the gun control laws, and whether we need to focus on more than that. John, I know you believe that when we tighten the gun control laws, it's law-abiding citizens who get pinched, not the would-be bad guys. Explain.
Right. Well, I mean, we all want to try to take guns away from criminals. The problem is, exactly as you say, let me give you a simple example. One thing that's been true for virtually all these multiple victim public shootings, in fact, there's only one exception, is that they've all occurred in places where guns are banned. You go and ban guns from a particular area, let's say a movie theater post, that people aren't allowed to take guns in there. Law-abiding citizens obey those rules. They don't take it in. Unfortunately, the criminal actually has an incentive then to go and attack in that target because people are going to be less able to go and defend themselves. The simplest way to think about it is, let's say, God forbid, a criminal was stalking you or your family. Would you feel safer putting a sign on your home that said, "This home is a gun-free zone"? I don't think it would stop a criminal from going in. I don't know any gun control proponent that would put up a sign like that. In fact, it would actually encourage them to do it because the criminal know it would be easier to attack them there. And yet, even though we'd never put up a sign like that on our own home, we put up those signs all over the place. If these attacks were random, then we should have 98 or 99% of the multiple victim public shootings should be in places where guns are allowed. Instead, they're virtually all occurring where guns are banned.
Well, I want to get Lori to weigh in. Lori, your thoughts?
This is what I know. When my daughter Emily was shot twice in the back of the head 5.5 years ago at Virginia Tech, the shooter used a high-capacity magazine clip on his firearm. In that during the ban, state police, and I get my facts from the state police, the sale of high-capacity rounds went down, and the use in crime, state police tell me, was down. After the ban was to be expired, the incidence of those high-capacity rounds in crimes increased. They found them. I know that Cho had access to those high-capacity magazine rounds because of the expiration of the ban. That is what resulted in the carnage at Virginia Tech. 32 people were killed and 17 were injured, including my daughter Emily. Shot twice in the back of the head, you know, by someone who had easy access to military-style people killers. And it's unacceptable in America that we allow this to happen to our children and that we see the answer to gun violence as more guns.
John,
that is not the answer. We need to remove the threat. We need to remove the threat.
I want to come back to that, John, because the high-capacity magazines, and I understand you do not believe that guns, I mean, let's get it straight. The shooters are the ones who decided to pull the trigger. The shooters are the ones responsible, and they decided to use guns. But so many people have said, let's take what happened last week at the elementary school in Sandy Hook. If he hadn't had the magazines, if he hadn't had the weapons he had, maybe he would have been slowed down. Because it appears he wanted to kill more, and the only reason he didn't kill more is because the police showed up. So maybe if he didn't have, you know, the magazines he had, he wouldn't have killed quite as many. How do you argue against that?
Right. Well, I mean, guns make it easier for bad things to happen. And look, the big thing...
That's exactly right. So
Hold on, let him
Excuse
finish,
me.
and then
That's
I'll come back
exactly
to you.
right.
Let him finish. Let him finish. I'll
Thank
come
you.
back to you. Go ahead, John.
Thank you.
But-
I'm sorry.
But they also have benefits in terms of protecting people who are being threatened by crime. You know, we have 3 different types of guns out there. You have machine guns, automatic, one pull the trigger, lots of bullets come out. Then you have
Those are banned.
semi-automatics. Well, they're extremely heavily regulated.
Law
No
enforcement,
crimes are
basically.
committed. Yeah. And then you have semi-automatics, which are one pull the trigger, one bullet comes out. And then you have essentially manual load, like a bolt-action rifle, where you have to pull back the bolt, manually put the bullet in, and then close the bolt again. So, you know, a lot of this discussion about military-style weapons, whatever, it's really kind of a misnomer because, you know, there's no difference between, let's say, a hunting rifle in terms of how it functions.
I get that. But can you speak to her point about the high-capacity magazines? Why is that? Because a lot of people say, why does a hunter need that? Why does a law-abiding citizen need more than, you know, 10 rounds in the magazine?
Right. Well, here's the deal. Once a gun can accept a magazine, it can accept a magazine of any length. And we tried banning magazines here above a certain size with the assault weapons ban. I don't know of anybody, any academic, who's found that in published studies by criminologists or economists that found it had a benefit. And there's many reasons for that, but one is that a magazine is like the simplest part of a gun to make. It's just a metal box with a spring in it. And so if you were to go and completely ban them, I don't think you'd be any more successful in banning those than you were banning guns in D.C. or Chicago.
And Lori,
when we
some
had
people
bans
say if you look at somebody like Adam Lanza, who's, you know, they're always such cowards. You know, I mean, he's in there in his military gear against little 6-year-olds. No one was going to come after him. You know, they were little babies, so he could have had all the time he needed, you know, to kill. Is what the argument is.
His actions are unacceptable in American society. Let's just do what we can, and let's make attempts and efforts to make it more difficult for people who are severely mentally ill and suffer from violent tendencies to get their hands on these high-powered people
but I want to get your
killers.
thoughts on this, Lori, because you know that his mother didn't suffer from those, and so she had the guns legally. So even if we revamp the gun laws the way they were from '94 to '04, she still could have got those guns, and he still would have had access.
They would have been banned at the time if we had kept the assault weapons ban and not let it expire.
That's not true. The semi-automatic rifles that she had would not have been covered by the assault weapons ban. Only certain forms of the AR-15 were banned.
Let's not argue over how big, how small, how what. Let's fix it. Let's take action. Let's keep these military-style people killer out of the hands of everyday citizens. And I think that Americans are clear. Americans want these people killers off the streets. We want them unavailable to everyday citizens. Law enforcement are and have spoken out on this. They are for the assault weapon ban. And everyday Americans, we do not want to live in a military-style armed society. I don't want to live in a country that has a military weapon on every street corner by every yahoo walking down the street.
John, I'm going to give you a chance to respond, but I do want to ask you, because some are saying now that the ban that was in place from '94 to '04 was largely feckless. It was ineffective because it was feckless, and that if we're going to have gun control again, we need to put some teeth into it. They want to make something more forceful than what we had in place.
Well, the advocates who put it in place claimed it was having effect. You can look at statements by Dianne Feinstein or Chuck Schumer when it was about to sunset in 2004. Both of them, as well as many others, predicted huge increases in murders and robbery rates that would occur if it sunset in 2004. Well, it sunset in 2004, and murders are down 20%, and robberies are down almost the exact same amount. So,
and the decrease by state police in the number of magazine rounds found at crimes has been cut in half during the ban. It's not true. You can find all the facts you want, but let's not argue these facts. The facts are there: 26 children
you use a lot. I
and
don't think you
student
know
and
what you're
staff
talking about
dead.
on the guns. You don't. When you've used the term military weapons, these are not military weapons. There's no military in the world.
Then let's let the experts figure this out.
Excuse me, ma'am. Excuse me.
We're gonna have to leave it at that because we're running out of time. I do want to say, Lori, I understand that your daughter survived having been shot twice in the head, and for that we're very grateful for your family.
Thank you very much. We are grateful she's alive, and I am sad that there are others who are not, and we need to do a better job to keep Americans and our children safe.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that's something we can all agree on, right? It's just a question of what the right solution is. And I appreciate that respectful debate. Thank you both so much.
Thank you for having me.
I understand her fear, but you...
Sorry, John. We're out of time. But John's got a lot of postings online, too, if you want to hear more on either side. You know, a lot of passions running high on both sides.